Welcome. I'm Maria Jimenez Lara, CEO of the Naples Children and Education Foundation, founders of the Naples Winter Wine Festival. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you may be joining us from. We are so happy to have you with us today to celebrate the success and generosity of all of our donors and supporters from the 2021 Naples Winter Wine Festival. The social restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic forced the NCF trustees to make alterations to the format of this year's festival, which featured our first ever televised event and virtual auction. Because of your tremendous kindness, this year was an incredible success. While we wish we could come together to all finally celebrate in person, we hope that you are as excited as we are to have this incredible opportunity to prepare brunch with the talented chef Tom Colicchio of Crafted Hospitality. We thank you not only for attending this virtual celebration brunch today, but also all of the support at the Naples Winter Wine Festival during this uncertain time. Since our inception in 2001, NCF has provided services to more than 275,000 children in the categories of child advocacy, early learning, medical health care, and out-of-school time, in addition to our multi-year collaborative strategic initiatives. This year, with the help of your generosity, we've been given the privilege to invest over $9.2 million into organizations that continue to provide much-needed programs that serve at-risk and underprivileged children in our community. Today, we are here to pay special recognition to our Tastevin Society. First, we will recognize our new Tastevin d'Or. This designation is for those who have contributed $1 million cumulatively, and you will now see their names appear on their screen. Next, we would like to recognize all of the new Tastevin members that joined the Society this year. Becoming a Tastevin member requires a winning bid or contribution of $100,000 at a single auction. Here are the new Tastevin members for 2021 auction. Next, we would like to recognize the Encore Tastevin members for 2021. Now, we would like to recognize all of the previous members of the Tastevin d'Or Society. These are individuals who have reached the designation in previous years. You will now see their names appear on your screen. Now we will recognize our Tastevin members from previous years who have reached the Tastevin designation. This concludes our recognition of the Tastevin Society members. Next, we would like to take a few moments to recognize our Chevalier de la Fête Society that gives so generously, some year after year, whether it be donating an exceptional collection of wine, providing access to their private homes and vineyards, or creating a unique travel experience. The Naples Winter Wine Festival would not be as successful without the donations of these generous individuals. First, we would like to recognize the Chevalier de la Fête d'Or members, whose donations have raised over $1 million for the children of Collier County. Next, we would like to recognize the Chevalier de la Fête members whose donations have raised over $100,000 at the 2021 virtual auction. Now we would like to recognize the Chevalier de la Fête members whose donations have previously raised $100,000 at auction. On behalf of the trustees, the staff of NCEF, and the children we serve, we cannot thank you enough for your incredible generosity. Now I will pass it over to Chef Tom Colicchio of Crafted Hospitality.
Okay, now you can hear me. There we go. How's that? So I just wanted to number one say thank you, and this is my way of saying thank you for your generosity. It was a few I guess the day after the auction, I was talking to Bob Scott and asking about the auction, whether or not there was an auction this year. And he told me that they had just finished and raised a bunch of money. And in some cases, there were no auctions and there was no big festival. And so I thought it'd be great just to see if we can get together and do a little cooking demo and just to say thank you for your generosity. You know, this has been a really tough year and so many people are being helped because of your generosity. So I just wanted to say thank you. I've been coming down to Naples over the years for the event, and it's always a blast and it's always so much fun. Obviously this year it was done virtually. And so I thought it'd be great to get together and do a little brunch. And so the dish that we put together for you today, it's really simple. I thought we keep it easy just so everyone can actually participate here. And so we shipped everything. Everything's in a box. You have a recipe. I may alter it a little bit, but let's get started. So we're going to start by sweating the vegetables. This carrot, my stove's not going to light now. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So we're going to start just by sweating or sautéing the vegetables, the carrot, the celery, and the onions and leek that we have. So these vegetables right here. So we're going to warm up the pan. Okay. And we're going to cook these until they just soften up a little bit. Okay. Let's get that in there. There we go. Okay. So what we're doing is we're going to make it's kind of a mushroom bolognese. Obviously, bolognese is made with meat, and but this is a recipe that I've been doing over the years where instead of using meat, we substitute mushrooms. You can use, if you're shopping for this, you can use any mushroom. We actually just cooked some porcinis a little bit ahead of time just to kind of get this process going a little bit. But if you were shopping and want to do this recipe, you can use shiitakes or portobello or pretty much any mushroom, and then they're just kind of diced up and then added to the pan after the vegetables are cooked, very much like you would any bolognese. And so we're going to get this going. Now, the vegetables, again, we don't want them to, you're not going to roast these. We don't want a lot of color on these. We just want it to soften up. So you see I have some olive oil. We're going to add a little bit of salt. We're going to add some pepper to this. Now, what I'm doing here is once there's heat in the pan, you can see it's starting to sizzle, right? What we want to do now is we want to lower the flame a little bit, because if we just crank this up and had it on really high heat the whole time, this would start to brown, and we're not looking for that. And what I'm doing here is, you know, obviously when you cook, you use your sense of smell and sense of taste and vision, but I'm also using my sense of hearing, and I'm listening to the sizzle in this pan. And if I hear it sizzling a little too much, there's one or two things I could do. I could turn it down, or I can add some more other vegetables. In this case, I'll add the mushrooms. Okay. I'm not going to add these all at one time. If I add this all at one time, it would lower the heat too much in the pan, and it would start to steam. I really don't want that. So we'll just let that keep cooking, and we're going to add the mushrooms a little at a time. And again, if these weren't cooked, same thing. We still add them a little at a time. And you can see as soon as you start adding those mushrooms, you hear how it's not sizzling as hard as it was. So now we're going to let the heat come back up again. And we're going to wait until the heat comes back up before we add the next addition of mushrooms. And we'll keep building flavors like that. Okay. If there are any questions, feel free to either, I guess you can shoot me a message in the message box there. I don't know if you can unmute and talk to me. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, if you can see this overhead really well, you can see how this is just starting to cook nicely, soften up. We'll add a little bit more of the mushrooms, and we'll keep going. Now, the great thing is this mushroom bolognese that we're making, it's really versatile. Today, we're going to use it underneath the salmon, but simply taking this, letting it cook down and tossing it with pasta, cooked pasta, you have a great sort of vegetarian mushroom pasta dish, which is the way I usually use it I think in my first book, Think Like a Chef, I actually serve this over the top of polenta. You can use it that way as well. Okay, and again, we'll just keep adding this slowly. And it's just starting to nicely cook. You don't need to rush this. Now, also, for simplicity, I kept things out that I normally would put in, like herbs. If you have some time, hold on 1 second. If you have some time, or you can add basil to this. I have some chives that I just picked out of the garden. So you can add some thyme to this. Again, or any other herbs. Again, didn't want to complicate things in the box. So, but if you have an herb garden or if you have access to some herbs, feel free to use it. You don't have to. Okay. There we go. So now all the mushrooms are in. Well, once the mushrooms are in, now in the recipe, I include it in the box in tomato paste. You can use a tiny bit. You don't. I mean, I think you got a pretty good sized tube. You don't need that at all. I mean, just really a little bit is all you need right here. I have it's about a teaspoon. Maybe I'll use a full teaspoon. Okay. And we're going to let that cook a little bit. And then we also added some roasted tomatoes. If you're going to make this recipe and you don't have roasted tomatoes, feel free to use canned tomatoes. They're fine. Just give them a little chop, and you want some of that juice in there as well. So we're going to add some of the tomatoes, and you don't need to add all of it. I think I'm adding about a third. This is really about the mushrooms, not about tomato. You want some tomato in there. Okay. Now we're going to turn down the flame and let that cook nice and slowly. If you were using the canned tomato and you had some juice, that's fine. The other thing you can do if you wanted to, these tomatoes are a little on the dry side. If you had a little bit of chicken broth that you wanted to add, you could. I'm going to add a little water to the pan. I know it's not in the recipe, but just to, well, because these roasted tomatoes were a little dry, so just add a little bit of water. Again, you can add broth to this as well. And that's it. So now we're going to turn this down and let that simmer away nicely. That's pretty much done. So for the salmon, I have a Teflon pan. If you don't have a Teflon pan, stainless steel will work, and I'll show you how to make sure it doesn't stick. So I have, everyone has salmon. There's probably a few different, thickness in terms of various pieces of salmon. I have a pretty thick one, so I'm just gonna cut it in half. And I'm going to leave the skin on because I kind of like the skin. I'm just going to cut it in half just to make it a little easier to deal with in the pan. A little faster this way. Okay. So let me just swap it out, put my mushrooms up there. There we go. Okay. So we're going to add a little bit of oil to the pan. With the non-stick pans, you don't need to add a ton of oil, just a little bit, and then let it heat up. Okay. We're going to season our salmon with salt. Now, make sure if you took it out of the bag and it's wet, make sure it's dry. When your fish, if you're trying to cook fish and it sticks, it's usually because it's wet. You want to dry it really, really well. Mine looks actually pretty good. Okay. I say we started this box delivery business because of COVID. Our restaurants were shut down, and right around the holidays, we did our first box. It was a 6-pound holiday rib roast, and it sold really well. So we continued to do it, and it's turned into quite the little business there. We've been shipping about 200 boxes every week. It's been pretty successful. So it's, we all, like so many people during COVID, we had to pivot and find a different way to find some revenue, and it worked out well. And so it worked out well enough where we could start doing these cooking classes and ship boxes as well. So it, you never know. Sometimes there is a silver lining. Just gotta find it. So I'm gonna add the salmon, actually skin side down, because I want that skin to crisp up. If you don't like skin, you can remove it. I kind of like it. It's nice and crispy. There's, you know, if you cook it slowly, a ton of flavor in the skin. There we go. Get that out of the way. So you notice now, there's no flame shooting out of this pan. That's all fine for TV. You don't need to do that. This is on a medium flame, and there's a reason for it. And it will get crispy. It's not going to stick. You see, it's not sticking at all. If you're not using a Teflon pan, you're using a stainless steel pan, when you put the fish in the pan, do not move it around. Don't shake it back and forth. Don't try to pick it up too soon. Just let it go. If you see your salmon or your fish is sticking, let it cook. Usually it sticks if you're moving it too quickly. If it's wet, it'll stick. But because this is the non-stick pan, this is fine. But again, I'm not cooking on high heat. And in fact, once it starts getting too hot, I'm going to lower the flame. Because I don't want this really, really high, because what happens is the outside starts to overcook before the inside's cooked, and it gets tough on the outside. Now, we're going to use the vinaigrette. Obviously, we're going to dress the arugula a little later, but I'm going to braise this fish in the vinaigrette to get that flavor in there. And so what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the vinaigrette and put it, and you want this in a cold pan, just in a separate pan. You don't want to add this to this pan because it'll be too hot. It will start to boil really hard, and it wouldn't taste very good. So, and again, we're going to take our time here. There's no reason to rush this at all. Okay, I'm going to check on the mushrooms here. All starting to look really good. Now, here's what's kind of fun about these recipes, because these recipes, they're just a guideline. It's you know, it's not Bible. And so when I say that, there's a few things that you could do. If you like your food spicy, you could do one of two things here. We can add, I have some chili crunch here. It's jarred, it's chili, it's a little bit of sesame seed in there. You can add that in the pan as well to that vinaigrette if you like spicy food. A little later on, again, because I want to add a few more things, I have some avocado cut up that you could also add if you choose to, if you like to. Also with the citrus vinaigrette, if you want to take lemon and lime and orange and actually make segments, you can use those segments too. I'll show you how to do that real quick. I'm not looking to confuse anyone, but I'm just going to fill some time because the salmon is going to take a little while to cook here. So we're cooking so slow. But if I wanted to add some lemon segments to this, I would simply just take my lemon, cut off the two ends, and then just trim around the lemon, removing all the skin and the pith, exposing the flesh of the lemon, and then taking paring knife should live in here, but I don't see one. Taking our knife and just kind of working it along to make, you got to go in between the membrane of the lemon, and you can actually get really nice segments. So if you see, I'm working the knife in between. I would recommend using a paring knife for this. There we go. And you could do this with orange, you could do this with grapefruit or lime, and then you have some additional citrus segments that you can also add to the vinaigrette. So we have our salmon cooking, and so at this point, you see the skin is nice and crispy. There we go, really crispy, but you still see it's cooked kind of on one side. It's still a little rare on the other side, obviously raw on the other side. And so now we have a vinaigrette. I'm going to flip this just a little bit. I use my hands because I'm used to it. Use a fork if you like, or a spatula. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is just add the salmon to the pan that has the citrus vinaigrette. Again, I have a little bit of spice in mine, and I have the lemons in mine, but if you just have the vinaigrette, that's fine. The mushroom is looking really good. Is everyone following along here? Because it's going to happen fast now. Get ready to eat. So this, once the vinaigrette is in here and the salmon's in here, really low flame. You want it just to barely simmer. If it cooks too quickly, it just the fish is going to get a little tough, and the vinaigrette starts to it'll get really cloudy, and the proteins from the fish will actually start to leach into the sauce, and you really don't want that. So nice and slow, and then we can let's take a spoon and just kind of over the top of the salmon just to baste it. It's starting to look really good. And again, just warming it up. What I'm doing is, as soon as it starts to simmer a little too much, I take it off the flame and just keep basting it in. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of medium right now. That's kind of the way I like it. Now, we have a little more salt on that. I have some chives. And again, I have this avocado that I added to mine. And again, if you don't have it, don't worry about that. You don't have it, but I just wanted to give you some options. Our mushrooms are nicely cooked. And for the end, this is real easy. We're going to just take some of our mushroom, plate this up on a plate. And we have some salmon. This just kind of sits right on the top of the mushroom. And then we have the arugula. The arugula came from my friends at Bowery Greens. It's actually an indoor farm. It started in New Jersey, and they opened a second one in Maryland. They have a third one opening up in Pennsylvania. It's a pretty cool farm. It's all done by robotics and artificial intelligence, and they're growing some really great stuff. Okay, and so we're going to just dress our arugula. And again, I'm going to add the avocado to mine, and I'm going to add some chives to mine. So I use some of the cold vinaigrette, not the warm vinaigrette, but I'm going to use the warm vinaigrette. And this just kind of goes over the top and around your fish. So it's a nice little salad, great for brunch. And then I'm going to take some of the warm, here it is, some of the warm vinaigrette, those lemon segments, and I'm going to just over the top of the fish. And that is pretty much it. It's a real simple, nice little salad, salmon salad. And again, this can be done with any fish. We ship salmon. It can be done with snapper, grouper. It really doesn't matter. It's just the idea of cooking the fish, braising it. Braising is that combination of dry cooking, which we started out by cooking it in the oil, and then adding the vinaigrette to finish it. That's braising. And so that's really it. So it can be done with any fish. It's real simple and delicious. And I'm going to dig in. Hopefully yours is ready and you can sit down and dig in as well. Any questions? It's strange because I can't hear anybody. We've all been living on Zoom, so we're getting used to this, I guess. But this is tasty. I think my wife said she wanted this for lunch, so I'm going to have 2 bites and give her the rest. Okay. Oh, there we go. 6 new messages. Now you can see them. Here we go. Now they can hear me. So, okay. My favorite dish to cook. What's my cat's name? I don't have a cat. Why would you think I have a cat? I have a dog. My dog's name's Tiki. She's around here somewhere. She's a flat-coated retriever. I'm not sure where she is. She usually finds her way into the shop. She'll jump up here and try to steal some food, but I think she's sleeping somewhere. Wine? What kind of wine? I think something kind of crisp, white, a Gewürztraminer, even a Viognier. I think would be really nice. This is pretty floral. Will work well with some of those citrus notes. but you know, any you know, white wine should work really well with this. So did everybody cook? How many people cooked along? And kind of good to know who cooked along and who's eating right now. Okay, no more, there's no more questions and no more comments. So I guess everybody has their, could you make this dish with chicken or other protein instead? Yeah, that's a good question. You can. You couldn't braise it as quickly as we did the salmon, but you could. Again, if you were going to use the mushroom duxelle and a vinaigrette for a sauce and you wanted a roast chicken, that would work out really well too. But again, you're getting the idea. This is really versatile. It's just the idea of cooking. You know, when I was first starting out, when I started cooking at home when I was about 13 years old, and it was frustrating a little bit. I mean, I love cooking and I love food, but it was frustrating because I most likely would have been diagnosed with ADHD. All of my boys are clinically diagnosed, and I had a hard time getting through a recipe. You know, I look at a recipe and it would say, get a shoulder of lamb and you know, tie it, you know, bone it out and tie it in a large sautoir, you know, brown it on all four sides, remove it from the pan, add carrot, celery, onion, leek cut into like 1-inch dice. When it's cooked, when it's starting to soften, put the lamb back in, add 2 cups of red wine, 4 cups of chicken stock, add some herbs and a bouquet garni, whatever that was. You know, put it in a 325-degree oven with the lid slightly ajar. And this was a very complicated directions for something as simple as braise the lamb shoulder, because that's all they were telling you to do, right? And so when I was about 15, my dad came home with a book that he said he got it in the library where he worked. And the book kind of changed my life because Jacques Pepin, who we all know is a great chef and personality, it was his book called La Technique. And this book wasn't about recipes, it was really about technique. And I'm not quite sure what this book was doing in the county jail. That's where my dad worked. He was a corrections officer. And but he brought this book home. And once I understood that cooking was more about technique and not about recipes, then it kind of unlocked the whole sort of mystery. And I was able to look at something and go, okay, they want me to braise, so I know how to braise. It doesn't matter if it's a lamb shoulder or a chicken leg or short rib of beef. Braising is braising. And it just really demystified everything for me, and it really, really helped. So yeah, that's a great question. Clearly, you know, this technique would apply itself to so many different dishes. What do we look for in a good olive oil, saute or salad? You know, lately I just use, I prefer the fruitier olive oils, a little bit of pepper notes, but because I tend to cook on lower heat, I'm not worried about burning good olive oil. So I use, you know, I'm in Mattituck, New York, out in Long Island, on the North Fork of Long Island. There's about, I don't know, 3,000 people who live here. We have one little downtown area called Love Lane, and there isn't a pretty good Italian butcher there. And I just pick up whatever they have. Right now, it's kind of funny because it's called Colicchio, not Colicchio, but Colicchio, and it's not my olive oil. But this is what I'm using. It's extra virgin. It's fine. It works for me. Okay, sure. So the question about the mushroom bolognese. So yeah, so again, a bolognese sauce, classic dish from Bologna, Italy, made with beef. I've seen it made with also veal and pork, vegetables, usually a little carrot, celery, onion, sometimes leek, all cooked together. The addition of some white wine. I have seen red wine added to it, and then milk. I actually believe that the recipe originated using whey because they make so much cheese in that region as well. So it was probably a way of using up some of the whey from cheese making. But typically you see it made with milk, cooked for about 2 hours. The addition of a little bit of tomato paste, garlic, and it's just cooked down for, again, 2 hours, and usually made, you know, tossed with a pasta. And so I adapted that to use mushrooms. I did it because, you know, often in restaurants we get vegetarian requests, and it was a good way of if there was a bolognese on the menu, to have a vegetarian bolognese. And then I also decided that I use it for other things, not just pasta. It could be used as a side dish. It's quite good on its own. And I also like, pairing it with other proteins. So that's where it came from. So yeah. Again, right now I'm not in a studio. I'm at my house in Long Island. And this is where we decamped. I live in Brooklyn, but we moved out here last April, just to get out of the city and a little easier for the kids to get out here. And there's a school out here that we managed to get into that's the kids have been going in person full time all through the pandemic. So it's been a little easier on them. What kind of salmon did I use and where's it from? The salmon, most likely, God, I'm forgetting the farm. It's in New Zealand. It's what we've been using for farm-raised fish. I don't use a whole lot of farm-raised fish, but we use, if we're using salmon, it's usually wild. But for this, because we had to use so much of it, it is a farm-raised fish. Mm-hmm. 4 ingredients are the most necessary to keep in your kitchen. Salt, real important. Why 4? Why limit it to 4? I don't know. I mean, if it was going to be 4, you can make a good cacio e pepe with 4 ingredients. Pasta, actually, I think it's 3. Pasta, pecorino cheese, black pepper, and a little bit of salt and some water. So you can get 1 dish with 4. How's that? Any chance you can see you future Naples? Sure, I've been coming pretty much every other year to the festival, so yeah, I'll probably get down there again once we're back in person. Mm-hmm. I cooked. Someone says, "Yay, I cooked." Awesome. My favorite thing to cook. It's not a dish, but my favorite thing to cook is mushrooms. It's one of my favorite things to eat. I think. When we were kids, I'm not sure if you did this, if you think back to when you were a kid, at some point you made a mud pie, right? And you grabbed some mud and you packed it in, and at some point you maybe tasted it and said, "What's it?" And you spit it out and it tastes like dirt. Mushrooms, I think, are the closest thing you can get to eating dirt, eating the earth. Winemakers may disagree and say wine, clearly you can taste the terroir in wine, but I think mushrooms, you really get a sense of that earth, especially wild mushrooms, especially morels and porcinis. And so for me, that dirt, that earth is something that I really enjoy when I'm eating mushrooms. I find the other ingredient that also I think you get that same earthiness are beets. A good roasted beet, you get that earthiness as well. And mushrooms are my absolute favorite thing to eat. I think I can, if it was I had a desert island food, I had one thing I can actually bring with me, that would be it. And obviously oil or butter to cook them in. Hey Jeff, we're gonna, I see you in there. Yeah, when I'm there though, we're gonna play, because I've been playing for a lot since the 20 years ago when we first got on stage. And so we're gonna play together when I'm back in Naples. Any other? Okay. I think everybody's eating. That's probably a good sign. It's quiet in the chat right now, so that's usually a good sign. So if there aren't any other questions, I will just kind of sign off and again, thank everyone for their generosity. It has been a really, really difficult year for so many people. Many of us who could work, figured out a way to work at home. It wasn't as bad. We all, it was fine. The economy is great for some of us, but for so many people who are the frontline workers were struggling before COVID, they're really suffering. I know we've all seen the news reports and the lines of cars waiting 3 hours for food, and your generosity has made it so much easier for so many people. So again, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you next year, and we'll raise even more money. Thank you.
Welcome. I'm Maria Jimenez Lara, CEO of the Naples Children and Education Foundation, founders of the Naples Winter Wine Festival. We hope you all enjoyed this virtual cooking demonstration with Tom. Thank you so much for such an entertaining way to spend our afternoon or morning. We would like to thank our sponsor, Northern Trust, for our Tastevin event. We would also like to personally recognize Gulf Shore Life and Wink TV for their continued support. With your support this year, the Naples Children and Education Foundation was able to raise $7.4 million for the children of Collier County, including $5.3 million for this year's paddle raise, which supports NCEF's annual grant recipients, and 7 strategic initiatives to focus on the well-being of the whole child. During NCEF's first 21 years, we've seen a fundamental change in the landscape of human services in Collier County. By encouraging organizations to work together and focus their resources, we and our partners have truly helped level the playing field for the most vulnerable children in our midst. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought a unique set of challenges and a greater need of our grant recipients. And your support will help hundreds of thousands of children in Collier County in a time in which they need it the most. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you all very soon.